Hello, and welcome to For Your Furniture. My name's Ian Campbell, and today we're going to talk about this old piano chair. It's got the adjustable seat on it. It came into me in a few wobbly pieces. What we're going to do is totally refinish it, and one of the nicest features on this chair that I like is it has the ball and claw feet that are glass balls on the bottom. The claws are, on this particular one, are cast iron. They used to be plated brass, but we are going to send those down the Ray, get them replated, make them look beautiful, and continue on, get the whole chair done. So please stay tuned. Hi, welcome back. As you can see now, we've taken the chair pretty much completely apart. Again, I'd like to point out the importance of labeling. As you can see, there's quite a few parts. I have my can over here. These little knobs were from the top of the chair, but I'll put them in there. Any screws that you might take out or anything like that, be sure to put them in a can, screw on the top, and then you're going to know where every piece is. But as I said, some of the labeling, there's quite a few parts to this when you take it all apart, so you want to make sure each letter goes back together. Even at that, this is what I would consider a fairly intricate, fairly hard chair to put back together. For one person, it's quite difficult. Some on and off, you'll need, maybe a set of hands to help you out with it. But now, a few things. There's this steel pin like this. It came up through the chair. You got to poke it back down all the way, and then this base goes right back up into it. Now, what's happened over the years, I'm just going to set this aside. What's happened over the years, I don't know if you can see, but this has been cracked in two spots across each side of it from the pressure of the steel pin being wedged into it for, again, so many years over and over. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you how to fix a crack like that, one way anyway. The problem is a chair like this, you're not going to see it all glued today because it takes a few different stages. I'm going to have to repair this, let it set overnight. Going to have to rebuild the whole bottom, let it set overnight, and then put it back up. So you're going to see some of the gluing being done, but more and more we're going to spend some time on the actual refinishing of it, the stripping of it, hand sanding. Again, like I showed you in the intro, that we sent the feet off to Ray, which, as usual, I'm sure he's going to do a great job. He's going to bring those back up to me, and they're going to look fantastic. Now, what I use here is just a syringe. I buy all different size needles from the local drugstore. You can buy, I think I got about 5 different types, from really, really thin ones that you might want to glue some underneath a little bit of veneer to the wider ones, which for this crack, I'm going to shove it down in, get a good, solid amount of glue in there. As I've said before, use a good quality glue. On something like this, you scrimp on the glue, a month later, it's going to come apart. You use a good high quality glue, put it in there, clamp it nice and tight. That's another important factor. Give it a nice clamp like I'm going to show you here, and it's going to hold it pretty solid. So if you can see here, the glue, look, the needle now is inserted, and you just pump her full of glue like that. And like I was saying, you want to put a good amount of glue in here. As you're pushing it in, you'll see it coming out of the needle. It's cracked on both sides, so just shove the needle back in this side, and you'll see lots of glue coming out. Drive it back in. You can see right there, the needle's pushing the glue right out. That's fine. You want to get lots in there. This is quite a bad crack. The more glue, the merrier. That's what's going to hold it in. So put the syringe in there. Get lots of glue in. Like I said, you can see it just dripping out. Now I'm going to set that aside. The one thing you might want to, what I do is when I'm putting the glue through a syringe such as this, it's a little bit thick. What I do is water it down by about 5% with just warm tap water, normal temperature tap water. Mix that up, say in a little wee container, get it blended real well. Then pour it into the back of the syringe. Put your needle, whatever size tip you want on it. Another little pointer, if you want to keep this, you're not going to use this day to day, even around the shop, we don't use this every day. Wrap some tape around the needle, then put this little thing back on it like that. and more often than not, you're going to open that up and it will still be good, so you don't have to waste a needle every time. There we go. We're going to set that aside. Now what I'm going to do, I'll just show you. I just use a C-clamp like this. Now, one little trick to it. Because the thing's on a curve, you're going to put a little bit of sandpaper on each side of it, like this. Okay? Now that is going to make it so the sandpaper should, now no guarantees here, the sandpaper should hold it from sliding off because it's got nice grit. Again, on a piece that you're not refinishing, you got to be a lot more careful. This particular one, we're stripping it. It's had nail holes everywhere. There's going to be major surgery to make this one come back to life. So this isn't too big a deal. So if you just see nice light pressure, you can see the glue coming out there, the glue coming out here as well. I'm looking down in the hole. There's glue as well, so that's fine. I'll just set that there for a sec. Again, just some water. This is going to save you a lot of hassle. When I glue this whole thing, this is what I do. Put some water on a rag. Just wipe the glue off the joint right there now. And the beauty of it now is, afterwards, I don't have to take a chisel and scrape all that off and spend 10 minutes. What did that take me? 5 seconds just to wipe it up, and there you go. You got a nice clean side. You know, the crack should dry, nice and clean. This side, look at all that glue. I know lots of guys who would leave that glue there. It's sort of a do-it-yourselfer thing sometimes. You leave all that glue there. Well, then what do you do afterwards? Well, if you just give it a nice wipe like that, once the crack is cured, we're going to be, once it's set, there's not going to be any more work to be done. It's just going to be cured and that's it. So I'm going to set that aside. Basically, the only other things I'm going to show you now on the chair, like I say, that's going to be one step. I got to leave that 24 hours. Not much more I can do, but I got everything labeled. Tomorrow I'll come in, take this off, make sure it's cured, and then continue on, put the rest together. The other thing, on this chair, it's a fairly old chair, and what happened was the back, it's got a little wobble to it. The problem that I ran into, though, is if you look underneath, someone, somewhere along the line, what they did was they put 3 big nails right through it. And what that did was they tried to, the joint that goes in, like basically like a dowel, they tried to expand it, but that's fine, but how the heck do you get the nails out? So this one's going to be, again, a little bit tough. This is a tricky chair overall. So what I'm going to do in a situation like that, again, back to the needle, what I would do is I'm going to stick the needle right in the hole, like that, as far as you can. Inject some glue into it till it's popping up like that. You can see it all popping up around. Inject it again. Get as much glue down in there as you can. And basically, this is one of those situations where we're going to kind of hope for the best. If it cures overnight, it gives it considerable more strength. There we go. We're going to be happy with that. We'll leave, basically well enough alone. If it doesn't, well, I don't know, we'll resort to something else. But really, really, the last resort, I feel, is to knock this apart and get that back off. If anything, I'll explain to the customer, which in this case happens to be my sister. I'll tell her, like, it's going to have to be that way. It's an old chair. We're going to refinish it and make it look beautiful. To be honest with you, it's a hall chair for her. It's more of a piece of art, a decoration in the house, than it is an actual chair that's used. It's not used at piano or anything like that. So it's not so big a deal if the back's a little bit loose. In normal circumstances, definitely, if there's a loose joint, knock it apart, clean it up. We're going to make sure that's done properly. In this case, you're going to break the chair. You're going to do more damage than that has already been done to the chair by trying to fiddle around, just strengthen it up. You're actually going to do more harm than good in this, again, this particular situation. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take some of the parts apart. We're going to connect all the letters, join the dots, so to speak. And once I get all glued and clamped up, I'm going to take it apart again, and then we're going to take it into the strip room and continue on from there, see how that finish comes off, and we'll see what's underneath this old finish. Now we just come back from the strip room. As you can see, I'm just doing a little bit of the final sanding on this piece. Paul did a real nice job stripping it, as usual, and the sanding, it's come up fairly even. Again, this is an old piece. We're going to just get a nice stain on it. That's what I'm going to show you next, how to do a nice stain. I'm going to make up some of my own stain. And then the one other thing I wanted to point out to you was when I had mentioned about the back not being real sturdy, and a lot of times you do leave well enough alone. That's fine. But the problem with this one was once the stripper got on it and everything, this is sort of, one of the things I've told you before about gluing a piece up, getting the joints nice and tight, and then stripping it. And this is a prime example of where the joints were a little bit loose. The stripper and the thinners and everything that we use to clean it, even though it's hand stripped, they get down in the joints and it loosened it up 100-fold from where it was before. So we did have to knock the back off it. And I just wanted to show you what I did to it was underneath right here and here, what I thought they did was put nails in it. Actually, though, I'll just show you. And this, again, is a way to tell some of the age of this chair, is you can see here, they're little wee wedges. So they had a slice in the wood, the dowel that goes down, they had a nice slice in it. They put the wedges, drove them up in. What this did exactly that was wedge the wood out and made it fairly strong, fairly tight there at one point. But again, over the years, it came loose and on and on. So again, this is a situation. It took me quite a bit of work to get the wedges out. I pulled them all out, got rid of them. And the thing I had to do was I had to fill it with epoxy and a little bit of sawdust. What the sawdust in the epoxy did was give it a bit of binder, so it filled in the gaps. The holes were a lot bigger. Everything was sort of messed up on it. But now the back is solid. I mean, really solid. Probably as solid as you could ever wish for this back to be. It is now. The whole base now is really good and solid. Again, this chair's come 100-fold from when it came into the shop. Just going to get rid of these little nails. So I'll show you, like I mentioned to you a lot of times before, this is a prime example of where I come up with some of my square nails. These ones now are absolutely no use in this piece, so we just throw them into my little collection here. Who knows, a week or 2 years down the road, you never know. Someone might come in, I'll need one little square wedge like that, boom, tap that in, and I've saved, a little bit more authenticity to an old piece of furniture. So all these little things make a difference. I guess my basic rule of thumb is whenever possible that you can add a piece that's from another older piece to keep some of its originality, do so. Again, in this case where I had to use the epoxy and stuff like that, that's one of those situations where you really have no choice. Hide glue would not have done the job that the epoxy did to this. So sometimes you do have to mix the new with the old just to, make things work, sort of thing. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you a little bit about what I do to stain this. What I'm going to basically do is use this is the seat here, and this is the bottom of it. I'm going to use the bottom as sort of a palette to get a little bit of the stain working. Now here's my, this is just a clear stain base right there. And what I'm going to do, I'll stir that up a little. Again, you sort of want to stir up everything. Even I stirred this like no more than 5 or 10 minutes ago. If I'm staining a big piece of furniture, I might stir the can up, half a dozen times. Because the pigment is a lot thicker, it does settle quite rapidly, and it can make a difference. If you didn't stir that whole can, you were doing a whole dresser, you might do the whole thing, and near the end of it, it might, funny enough, come up a little bit lighter because all the pigment settled to the bottom, and the top is a little bit thinner now. So we're going to start with another thing. I always start with the lighter colors first, is a basic rule of thumb. This is called burnt umber. It's kind of like chocolate brown, sort of. This is what I would call on the red side, like a warmer brown. So it's exactly that, like a chocolatey brown, sort of. Again, you want to stir it up make sure it all mixes up real well in here. Again, I guess where I just through the years, I've sort of learned how to do all these color matches, color schemes, sort of, and it just worked out pretty good for me. I've always had a little bit of an eye for it, but this really helps out. Just experience, just doing it is what helps the most. Now, there's the burn umber, the light one. Now, this one, it almost looks like it's black, but this is called raw umber right here. So we're going to put a little bit of that in, see how that mixes up. You can scrape it on the side of the can or do whatever you want. After I get this stained up, I'm going to take it in spray booth, do a little bit of spray work on it. And the other thing I had mentioned to you earlier, I did send the feet down to Ray. He called me today, said they're ready, so I'm going to go down and check on those. Now, that's some burn umber right here, and the raw umber in that as well. Now, the other thing I'm going to add into it now, I think, is a bit of red. It's called phthalo red, which is, I'll show you in a minute, it's quite a brilliant red. But I'm just going to put a bit of that stain on it there now. And that's not too bad. I'm going to add a touch of red, and I think I'll add a touch more of the raw umber. See, you can see it's quite a brilliant red on there, just like that. This is sort of where it comes that I can make mahogany, pine look like mahogany or whatever. A lot of times people think that mahogany has to be like that deep red, like they think that's natural mahogany, but it's really not. That's just sort of a color that over the years people have adapted to their eye to feel that that's what mahogany looks like. Mahogany is actually, for the most part, quite a light wood. Now we're going to add the raw, a little bit more, get the depth here, and then I'm going to go on to stain the whole chair. Now, there we go. Again, you don't want to use this rag for staining. In fact, I'm going to ditch one of these gloves too, because it's just got too much of the pigment on it, and then all of a sudden you'll be staining away, and some of the pigment will rub across it, sort of like I've explained with French polishing and that, and you don't want a tail hanging out the end when you're rubbing it across, so we'll ditch that rag as well. Take up a clean rag, and I'll just show you on the bottom here. We're going to do the seat first. Let me just move some of these things out of the road. We're going to do the, oh, spilt a bit, that's all right. We're going to do the seat, the bottom first, like that. Now again, I don't worry too much about the bottom, but I worry more than a lot of people. I mean, I really have worked in a lot of shops over the years, and a lot of shops where my boss would come out and ask me why I'm wasting his money, his time doing something like this. I don't see it as a waste of time. I just see it as a nice little thing to do. Again, that sets me apart from a lot of other people. You want a dry rag in one hand and the stain rag in this hand, and just go ahead, put a nice stain all over it. Now this chair, where it's fairly old, we haven't removed every single ding or every single dent on it. We moved most of them, but it's an antique. It's not a fresh piece right out of the local furniture store. It's a piece that has a lot of character, and it's been around a long time. You don't want to take all its integrity away. Now there's the seat done. It's actually that simple. Just to do a nice, just blowing a bit of the dust off of it. Just to do a nice light stain on this is really nice. Now, another thing I want to show you, on this one has a nice press back as well, which I think should come up fairly nice. Again, what you want to use for something like a press back is take a small brush and brush it in just like this. The rag doesn't get anywhere near as nice an even coat of stain as this does, so now I've got it all in there. I just take my rag and put it all along like so. And then after you do that, you just even her out like that. And there you go, you get the press back done. And then what I'll do is in all these joints up here and all these little spindles, same idea, use the brush. What I'm going to do again, as I mentioned, the pigment, you don't want it to all settle on you because then you're going to lose the true color of it. You just want to keep it mixed up. Doing a chair like this, I'll probably stir it up, 3 or 4 times in it. And again, just put the brush in like this. And the stain I find is, what I find interesting about doing this type of work is that from one stage to the next, you see quite a dramatic change in a lot of things. The stain is, it makes it look really nice. And then the next stage is when I go on to the spraying in the booth, that really changes it again. So, like I said, my sister who owns this chair should be pretty happy that it's coming up as well as it is. Hopefully she'll be happy anyway. She usually is with whatever work I do for her, but we'll just keep working away. As I mentioned, we're going to go down the raise next. I think I'm just going to keep working on getting this stained up. There's a little bit to it. And then I'm going to take it into the spray booth. I'll run down raise and get the hardware, and we'll come back from the spray booth shortly and show you the finish, put some of that hardware on, and we'll go on from there. Well, and there you have it. Now I'm just finishing putting that last screw into the nice feet that Ray polished up for me. I'm just going to stand this up like so. And that's, there you have it. What a beautiful piece. I took it from the spray booth. What we did was put a nice dull sheen lacquer onto it. I'm just going to put the seat back on. We put, like I said, a nice dull sheen lacquer on it. And what I'm going to do from here, I've done a little bit of steel wool on it. Oh, that's nice. And what you can do on this one, like the old French polish was all steel wooled off, just a nice light rub of steel wool, just like that, over the whole thing. I'm just going to bring that down a bit more. She really screams. A situation like that, I'm going to pull it back out, put a little bit of axle grease in there, and turn it back down so it doesn't squeal so much. But again, nice job on the feet. Remember, this one's been quite a hard piece to get all back together and everything, but again, it's turned out real well. My sister should, I assume, be pretty happy with it. If she ever sees it back again, I might just take this one to the house and keep it for myself. But thanks again for watching For Your Furniture today. On behalf of Tramp, again, as usual, sleeping away, and myself, Ian Campbell, I'd like to thank you for watching For Your Furniture. And remember, if it's wood, I can fix it.